Have you ever noticed how just one thought can change your entire day? A single moment, an inner sentence that decides whether you rise or collapse, whether you react or respond. Most people live unaware of the power that lives inside their own thinking. They let emotions run wild, let the mind drag them from one worry to the next. But what if, for just 3 days, you stopped letting the mind control you and started watching it instead? 3 days. That's all it takes to feel the difference. Not because life itself changes, but because the way you see it does. The Stoics knew this truth thousands of years ago, that suffering is often a matter of perception, that peace begins in how you choose to interpret what happens. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Imagine living that way, calm, steady, unshaken, not because life is easy, but because your mind is trained. For the next 3 days, I want you to think differently, to treat your mind not as a storm, but as the sky that holds it, to pause before reacting, to replace every complaint with a simple question: what can I do right now? To stop waiting for perfect control and instead focus on what you already command: your thoughts, your choices, your effort. This isn't about pretending to be emotionless. It's about learning to be untouchable by chaos. Because when you control how you think, you start to notice something remarkable. The world becomes quieter, not because it changed, but because you did. So here's your challenge: 3 days of mental training built on timeless Stoic wisdom. 3 days that could rewire your entire relationship with stress, fear, and control. You don't need anything special. No books, no courses, no morning routines. Just a willingness to think like this and to watch your mind transform. 1. Observe before you react. The average person spends their entire life in reaction. Someone insults them, they fire back. Traffic slows, they rage. Plans change, they panic. They don't see the space between stimulus and response. They live entirely inside it. But that tiny space, the Stoics said, is where freedom lives. It's where strength begins. For the next 3 days, I want you to treat every situation, no matter how small, as a chance to practice this. Observe before you react. When something triggers you, pause, just for 2 seconds. Feel the pull of emotion, but don't obey it. Watch it rise inside you like a wave, and instead of drowning in it, stand on the shore and watch. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Most people read that line as poetry, but it's not poetry. It's a weapon. The moment you start observing your emotions instead of identifying with them, you create a distance between you and the chaos. The anger is there, but you are not the anger. The fear is there, but you are not the fear. You are the observer, the steady one watching the storm pass. Try it in small things. When someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of letting the heat rise to your chest, breathe once and notice it. This is irritation, you say to yourself, not "I'm angry." When someone criticizes you, instead of feeling attacked, watch how your body reacts. Notice your breath, your heartbeat, the tension in your hands. See it all and don't move. You'll realize something subtle but powerful. Emotions are temporary guests. If you don't feed them, they leave quietly. This practice doesn't make you passive, it makes you precise. You begin to respond instead of react. You start to notice patterns, how certain people trigger you, how specific words or memories set off a chain of emotions. That awareness is liberation, because you can't control the world, but you can control your interpretation of it. And yes, at first it will feel unnatural. You'll want to react. You'll feel the impulse to say something sharp, to defend, to prove a point. That's when you stop and ask yourself, what would happen if I didn't? What if, for once, I let silence win? The silence will feel uncomfortable at first, like you're losing, but over time it becomes power. You'll begin to feel something you haven't felt in years: control. Not control over others, control over yourself. In just one day of practicing this, you'll notice a shift. The world seems slower. People's behavior doesn't sting as much. Your emotions still rise, but they don't own you. You become a calm presence in a room full of noise. And once you experience that, you'll never want to go back to being reactive again. That's the Stoic power. Not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. Because the truth is, your reaction shapes your reality. Every time you pause, every time you choose awareness over impulse, you are sculpting your mind into something stronger, calmer, and freer. For the next 3 days, make this your first rule. Observe before you react. Watch your thoughts before they become words, your emotions before they become actions. Let awareness become your armor. Because when you master that space between feeling and response, no one can control you. Not anger, not fear, not even life itself. And once you learn to observe, you'll realize that reacting less isn't weakness. It's strength in its highest form. Because the person who can pause in chaos doesn't lose themselves in it. They stand still while the storm passes. They remain whole, and that's where transformation begins. 2. Replace complaints with action. For most people, complaining feels natural, almost comforting. It's the mind's way of pretending it's doing something while actually doing nothing. You complain about your job, your partner, your body, your luck. And in that moment, the complaint gives you the illusion of control. But it's a trap, because every time you complain, you reinforce a single belief: I am powerless. The Stoics understood this deeply. They saw complaining as one of the most subtle poisons to the soul. It sounds harmless, but it erodes your strength from the inside. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one, that's the cure. Action. Do something instead of talking about it." For the next 3 days, I want you to catch yourself in the act of complaining. Not to judge it, but to notice it. Every sigh, every mental grumble, every "why is this happening to me?" Notice it. And each time replace it with a question: what can I do right now? Even the smallest thing. Because when you shift from complaining to acting, you shift from being a victim to being a creator. Imagine this. You're stuck in traffic. You start to complain about the city, the drivers, the wasted time. But what if instead you used that time to breathe deeply, to listen to something that expands your mind, or to reflect on something you've been avoiding? Suddenly the situation hasn't changed, but your role in it has. You've gone from powerless to purposeful. The same goes for your goals. Complaining about not having time is easy, but waking up 30 minutes earlier, that's power. Complaining about being misunderstood is easy, but communicating calmly and clearly, that's growth. Complaining about your body is easy, but moving it, training it, respecting it, that's change. Action, no matter how small, dissolves frustration. It gives your energy direction. The Stoics taught that when you face a problem, you should move immediately toward whatever solution lies within your control, no matter how humble. Because momentum, even slow momentum, creates clarity. Ask yourself, when you complain, what are you really saying? Often it's, I wish someone else would fix this. But no one is coming. The truth is harsh but freeing. You are the only one responsible for your life. The moment you stop waiting for others to change, you regain your power to act. This mindset transforms your days. When something goes wrong, instead of falling into that spiral of "why me?" you begin to think like a strategist. What's the next move? Complaints lose their flavor. You stop wasting energy on blame and start directing it toward building. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding intelligently. Here's the paradox. The less you complain, the more you start seeing opportunities. Because complaining blinds you. It narrows your focus to the problem. But action opens your vision. It makes your mind alert, searching for solutions, for possibilities. Try it today. The next time you feel yourself about to complain, pause. Don't suppress it. Transform it. If it's something you can change, change it. If it's something you can't, adapt to it. Either way, you win. Because you're training your mind to focus on what strengthens you, not what drains you. In just 3 days of doing this, your relationship with life will change. You'll stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and start feeling like a participant in creation. You'll realize that every complaint is a chance, a signal pointing toward an action you haven't taken yet. And once you replace complaining with action, your confidence grows. Not because everything gets easier, but because you finally trust yourself to move, to do, to face life as it comes. That's the Stoic way. Less noise, more motion. Less pity, more power. 3. Focus on what you can control. This single principle is the foundation of all Stoic philosophy, and yet it's the one most people ignore. We spend hours, days, even years worrying about things that are completely outside our hands. What people think of us, what might happen tomorrow, how the world should be but isn't. And all that energy, every ounce of it, is wasted, because no amount of worry will ever give you control over what isn't yours to command. Epictetus said it clearly. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. That's it. The moment you truly understand that distinction, peace begins. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop suffering over what you can't change. For the next 3 days, I want you to treat every situation as a test of this idea. When something happens, ask yourself immediately, is this within my control or not? If it is, act. If it's not, accept it and move on. This practice will save you from endless frustration because you'll stop trying to control the wind and start learning to adjust your sails. Think about how much time we lose to things that don't belong to us. You can't control traffic, but you can control how you respond to it. You can't control whether people respect you, but you can control whether you act with integrity. You can't control whether life is fair, but you can control whether you stay honest, calm, and consistent in an unfair world. That's the real power. Every time you shift your focus back to what's within your reach, you take your power back. The moment you let go of what's outside your control, you stop being a victim of chance and start becoming the master of response. The Stoics didn't aim to control the world, they aimed to control themselves, and because of that, they were free in any circumstance. Imagine being able to face any challenge with that kind of calm. You lose your job. You focus on what you can do next, not on who to blame. Someone betrays you. You focus on healing, on learning, on how to move forward, not on wishing they were different. Life disappoints you. You focus on adjusting your expectations instead of resenting reality. That shift alone transforms your entire emotional landscape. Marcus Aurelius lived this every day, As emperor, he had more responsibilities and chaos than anyone alive. Yet he still wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He wasn't speaking from a throne. He was reminding himself of a truth we all forget. When you focus only on what you can control, life becomes simple, not easier, but clearer. You realize most pain comes from trying to fix what isn't yours to fix. You stop demanding that people change, that the world behave the way you wish, that luck always favor you. Instead, you return to what is yours, your thoughts, your effort, your character. And here's the quiet miracle. When you master your response, the outside world begins to lose its grip on you. The storms still come, but they can't move you the same way. You stop being a leaf tossed by the wind, and you become the tree that stands through every season. So for the next 3 days, make this your mantra. I focus only on what I can control. Say it when you wake up. Whisper it when you feel frustration rising. Repeat it when life challenges you, because that sentence is more than wisdom. It's armor. Focus on what's yours. Release what's not. That's where peace begins, and that's how the mind transforms. 4. Practice voluntary discomfort. Comfort is seductive. It promises safety, ease, relief. But slowly it steals your strength. It makes your mind soft, your body heavy, your spirit fragile. The Stoics warned about this long before modern life made comfort the default. They believed that too much comfort breeds fear, fear of change, fear of effort, fear of pain. And fear, more than any obstacle, is what keeps people from living fully. Seneca once wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself all the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" That practice wasn't about punishing yourself. It was about liberation, to realize that you can survive discomfort and that survival brings peace. For the next 3 days, try this. Choose discomfort on purpose. It doesn't have to be extreme. Take a cold shower instead of a warm one. Wake up earlier than usual. Skip a meal and feel hunger without rushing to satisfy it. Walk instead of driving. Sit with silence instead of scrolling. Whatever it is, do it deliberately, as an act of training. What this does to your mind is profound. You start to see how much of your behavior is driven by the avoidance of mild pain. You eat, not because you're hungry, but because you're bored. You check your phone, not because you need it, but because silence makes you uneasy. You avoid challenges, not because they're impossible, but because they're uncomfortable. Voluntary discomfort exposes all of that, and once you see it, you're free. When you practice discomfort, you become adaptable. You stop being ruled by preference and start being guided by purpose. Life stops feeling fragile. If you can thrive on less, if you can stay calm in inconvenience, then nothing can truly break you. Because comfort is not your master anymore, you are. This practice also rewires how you experience pleasure. When you earn comfort, it feels sacred. When you choose it consciously instead of living in it unconsciously, it becomes gratitude instead of addiction. You start to understand the balance, that comfort is not evil, but dependence on it is. The point isn't to suffer, it's to remind yourself of what you're capable of, to remind your body and mind that you are not defined by ease. Every time you choose discomfort, you remind yourself, I can endure. And endurance, the Stoics knew, is one of the highest forms of freedom. So for 3 days, do one hard thing each day, something you normally avoid. Feel the resistance rise and do it anyway. you'll notice something strange. It gets easier, not because the task changes, but because you do. The fear shrinks, the hesitation weakens, and a quiet strength takes its place. That's the gift of voluntary discomfort. It breaks the illusion that you need things to be easy in order to live well. You stop saying, "I can't handle this," and start saying, "I've handled worse." You stop waiting for ideal conditions and start acting regardless of them. And soon, what used to feel unbearable becomes ordinary. What used to scare you becomes training. What used to defeat you becomes your daily exercise in resilience. That's how warriors are built, not in the fire of chaos, but in the quiet discipline of chosen struggle. 5. Turn pain into power. Pain is not your enemy. Misunderstanding it is. Most people spend their lives trying to escape pain, running from discomfort as if it were fire. But the truth is, pain is fire, the kind that forges you. It burns away the unnecessary, the illusions, the ego, and leaves only what's real. Every Stoic understood this, that growth is not born from pleasure, but from struggle. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." That's the essence of this point. Pain isn't there to punish you. It's there to teach you. It is a mirror reflecting your weaknesses, your attachments, your untrained thoughts. And if you face it consciously, it transforms from a curse into a teacher. The first step is to stop labeling pain as bad. It's not good or bad, it just is. It's an experience, a signal. When you feel it, pause. Ask, what is this showing me? Physical pain might show you limits you've ignored. Emotional pain might reveal expectations that weren't grounded in reality. Mental pain might highlight beliefs that need to be challenged. Every ache is information, and information is power. Think about your past. The moments that changed you the most, that shaped who you are, were not the easy ones. They were the heartbreaks, the failures, the losses. You didn't know it then, but each one was refining you. Each one forced you to grow in ways comfort never could. That's why the Stoics trained themselves to meet hardship, not with complaint, but with curiosity. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, disease, war, and yet he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action." What stands in the way becomes the way. He didn't deny pain. He transformed it. That's the secret. You can't avoid suffering, but you can decide what it does to you. You can let it make you bitter, or you can let it make you strong. You can let it close your heart, or you can let it deepen your understanding. For the next 3 days, whenever pain arises, physical, emotional, or mental, don't escape it. Observe it. Study it. Ask, what is this trying to teach me? And then, instead of reacting, respond with intention. If someone's words sting, see it as a chance to practice patience. If failure hits you, see it as an invitation to improve your strategy. If loneliness hurts, see it as a call to reconnect with yourself. Pain loses its sting when it gains a purpose. It's not about pretending it doesn't hurt. The Stoics never denied suffering. They just refused to be defined by it. They believed pain was a natural part of existence, a form of training for the soul. Just like the body strengthens through resistance, the spirit strengthens through trials. Every difficult experience is a form of resistance training for your mind. Imagine pain as the blacksmith's hammer. Each blow might hurt, but it's shaping you into something sharper, stronger, more precise. And when you stop running from it, when you meet it with awareness and courage, it becomes your greatest ally. You begin to say, "This pain will not destroy me. It will refine me." You begin to act differently. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of life and start seeing yourself as a student of it. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What can I learn?" And that question changes everything. So for 3 days, whenever pain appears, don't flinch, lean in, feel it fully, breathe through it, and let it do its work. Because pain, when faced with wisdom, becomes transformation. And transformation, that's power. Remember, life isn't testing you to break you. It's testing you to reveal you. And every time you rise from pain with understanding instead of resentment, you step closer to who you are meant to become. 6. Silence your inner critic. Inside every person lives a voice, quiet but constant, whispering doubts, second-guessing decisions, criticizing every step. It's the voice that says, "You're not enough, you're late, you should have done more." Most people think that voice is who they are, but it's not. It's just noise, an echo of fear, expectation, and past conditioning. The Stoics understood that if you don't learn to silence it, it will rule you. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Think about that. Every thought you allow to repeat paints your mind in its color. If your inner dialogue is full of harsh judgment, your world will look harsh too. But if you begin to speak to yourself with reason, with compassion, with calm, everything around you begins to soften. For the next 3 days, I want you to become aware of that voice. Not to argue with it, but to observe it. When it says, "You're failing," don't defend yourself. Simply notice, "Ah, there's the voice." That awareness is the first step toward freedom. You can't silence something you're still mistaking for truth. The inner critic thrives on attention. It feeds on your belief that it's real. But once you start seeing it as just another thought, one among thousands, it begins to lose its power. You realize it's not your conscience, it's your conditioning. It's not wisdom, it's fear dressed as discipline. Here's something most people never realize. Self-criticism doesn't make you stronger, it makes you smaller. It doesn't create discipline, it creates doubt. True discipline is born from respect, not hatred. You can push yourself hard and still speak to yourself gently. That's not weakness, that's mastery. When you hear the voice telling you you're behind, remember, you're not in a race. When it says you're not good enough, ask, by whose measure? When it says you always fail, remind it that you've risen every time you fell. The inner critic wants you to forget your strength. Don't let it. The Stoics believed that our judgments, not events themselves, are what disturb us. Your inner critic is a judgment factory, producing distorted thoughts about who you are. But you have the power to interrupt production. Each time you choose silence over self-attack, you weaken that factory. Each time you replace the thought, "I'm not enough" with "I'm learning," you rebuild your mental foundation. So for 3 days, treat your mind like sacred ground. Don't let every thought walk freely through it. Guard the gate. When negative self-talk enters, acknowledge it, then escort it out. No drama, no argument, just awareness. And slowly, something changes. You start hearing another voice, quieter at first, but steady. It's the voice of your higher self, the one that says, "You're growing," the one that says, "You've made it through worse," the one that doesn't shout, but simply trusts. Silencing the inner critic doesn't mean you'll never feel doubt again. It means you'll stop believing that doubt is truth. It means you'll stop confusing self-awareness with self-attack. It means you'll stop using your own voice as a weapon against yourself. Imagine what happens when your mind becomes a place of support instead of sabotage. Imagine waking up and not immediately measuring your worth against impossible standards. Imagine moving through your day with quiet confidence instead of internal noise. That's what happens when you silence the critic and let clarity speak instead. The Stoic path is not about denying your thoughts. It's about mastering them, and mastery begins in observation, patience, and calm correction. Speak to yourself the way you would to someone you love. Because the truth is, the relationship you have with yourself determines the quality of every other relationship you'll ever have. And once you begin to silence that inner critic, another realization appears, that much of what disturbs you in life comes from resistance to what simply is. Which brings us to the next step in your transformation, learning to accept what you cannot control and finding calm in that acceptance. 7. Accept the uncontrollable with calm. There's a quiet kind of suffering that eats away at people, not from what happens to them, but from their refusal to accept it. The human mind wants to control everything, how others act, how outcomes unfold, how life should look. But reality has no obligation to match your expectations. The more you resist what's already happening, the more you multiply your pain. Epictetus captured it in one sentence that could save a lifetime of frustration. Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do, and your life will flow well. It sounds simple, even impossible, until you try it. Acceptance isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the art of saying, "This is what is. Now what can I do with it?" For the next 3 days, I want you to practice radical acceptance. When something goes wrong, plans change, people disappoint you, unexpected chaos appears, don't resist it. Pause, breathe. Tell yourself, this is happening, and it's okay. Not because you like it, but because it already exists. The sooner you accept what is, the sooner you can use your energy to shape what comes next. Most people waste their lives fighting reality. They replay moments they can't change, trying to bend the past with their thoughts. They argue with the present as if denial could rewrite it. But the Stoic mind learns to flow. When the wind shifts, it adjusts the sail. When the storm hits, it anchors deeper. That calm adaptability is not indifference, it's mastery. Marcus Aurelius faced endless crises as emperor, betrayal, loss, plague, war, yet he wrote with unshakable serenity, "If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your judgment about them." Think about that. The problem is rarely the event, it's the story we tell ourselves about it. When you stop telling the story that this shouldn't be happening, peace returns. Try it in small moments. You spill your coffee. Instead of cursing, you clean it and move on. A meeting gets cancelled. You use that hour to rest or think. Someone criticizes you unfairly. You let them have their opinion and stay centered in yours. Each time you do this, you're proving to yourself that serenity isn't given by circumstance. It's chosen. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It doesn't mean you stop caring or trying. It means you stop wasting your power on resistance. You stop saying, "This shouldn't be," and start asking, "How can I move wisely through this?" That shift from resistance to response is the essence of Stoic calm. Over time, you begin to see that life is neutral. It's not against you. It's not for you. It simply unfolds. You can either meet it with tension or with trust. The first breaks you down. The second builds you up. When you stop wrestling with reality, you discover something miraculous. Life becomes lighter. You begin to flow with it, not fight it. And strangely, that acceptance gives you more control than you ever had before, because now your energy isn't wasted on wishing things were different. It's invested in making the best of what is. You become adaptable, strategic, steady. You stop breaking under change because you've stopped expecting permanence. So for 3 days, practice this every time frustration appears. When things don't go your way, smile slightly, breathe deeply, and say, Amor fati, love your fate. Not in a poetic way, but as a practical one. Accept that this right here is part of your path. Not a detour, not a punishment, just life as it is. And the more you practice, the more peace you'll feel. Not the peace that comes from everything going right, but the peace that comes from knowing you can handle anything, no matter how it goes. That's what the Stoics discovered long before us. Serenity is not found in changing the world, but in mastering your perception of it. 8. Think less, act more. There's a strange comfort in overthinking. The mind convinces you that if you analyze something long enough, you'll find the perfect answer, the perfect timing, the perfect plan. But life doesn't work that way. Overthinking is just fear wearing a mask of logic. It feels like progress, but it's paralysis. The Stoics knew that thought without action is just illusion. Epictetus reminded his students, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Don't talk about your plans. Don't debate what courage means. Show it, in motion, in practice, in the small, decisive moments that define a day. For the next 3 days, I want you to catch yourself when you start looping in thoughts, when you're hesitating to start, hesitating to decide, hesitating to live. Stop. Take one small, imperfect action. Send the message. Begin the workout. Write the first line. The clarity you seek won't come from thinking. It will come from moving. We often imagine that thinking protects us, that the more we think, the less we'll fail. But the opposite is true. The longer you hesitate, the heavier your fear grows. The longer you analyze, the more imaginary obstacles you invent. The Stoics didn't eliminate fear by overthinking it. They dissolved it by walking straight into it. Marcus Aurelius, who had more to lose than anyone, still wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That is the Stoic call to action. Stop circling your potential and step into it. You don't need the perfect mood, the perfect setup, or the perfect confidence to begin. You just need a first step, because once you move, the fog clears. The energy you were using to think becomes energy for doing. Motion replaces hesitation. You realize that life rewards movement, not speculation. Action also has another hidden gift. It silences self-doubt. When you're moving, your mind has less space to torment you with what-ifs. The body takes the lead, and the mind follows. The Stoics called this praxis, turning philosophy into living practice. Because a wise thought that isn't acted on dies in your head. But a small action, even done imperfectly, transforms the world around you. Think of how many dreams die because people wait to feel ready. Readiness is a myth. Clarity comes from doing, not before it. Every time you act, even clumsily, you learn something. You gather data, build experience, and slowly become the kind of person who doesn't need perfect conditions to move. So for 3 days, give yourself permission to stop overanalyzing and start executing. Replace "I'll try" with "I'm doing it." Replace "someday" with "today." Choose movement over mental loops. And notice what happens. The anxiety you carried starts to fade. The fog of uncertainty begins to lift. Life begins to open because you've stopped waiting for permission to live it. Action is the cure for overthinking. Doing is the medicine for doubt. The Stoics didn't sit around waiting for courage. They built it, one deliberate act at a time. So when your mind begins to spiral, remember this. The next step doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be taken. And the moment you take it, you'll realize what every Stoic already knew, that wisdom doesn't live in endless thought, but in the act of moving forward despite fear. 9. Practice gratitude and stillness. If you want to transform your mind in 3 days, here's a secret the Stoics understood better than anyone. Gratitude changes perception, and stillness keeps it. Together, they build the kind of peace that can't be taken away, no matter what happens outside you. Most people live in a constant state of restlessness. They wake up already chasing approval, progress, comfort, something just out of reach. Gratitude interrupts that chase. It pulls you out of the storm of more and brings you home to enough. Marcus Aurelius began many of his journal entries with simple reflections of gratitude for being alive, for having breath, for the chance to do his duty once more. Think about that. An emperor surrounded by wealth and chaos alike, finding peace in the simplest truths. He knew that gratitude isn't about ignoring pain. It's about remembering what remains good, even when life is hard. For the next 3 days, begin and end each day with stillness and gratitude. In the morning, before you touch your phone or step into the noise, sit for 1 minute, just one, and name 3 things you're grateful for. Not things you wish for, but things already here. Your breath, the sunlight through your window, the fact that you get another day to try again. And at night, do the same. Reflect quietly on what went right. Maybe it was a small moment of patience, a conversation that mattered, the strength to do something you didn't feel like doing. These small recognitions aren't trivial. They're how you train your brain to see abundance instead of lack. Now, pair gratitude with stillness. Not the kind of stillness that means doing nothing, but the kind that means being present. 5 minutes a day. No phone, no music, no distractions. Just sit and breathe. Let thoughts pass without chasing them. Feel the quiet. At first, your mind will resist. It will want to fill the space with noise. Let it. Watch it. The goal isn't to stop thinking. It's to stop being pulled by every thought. The Stoics called this inner quiet ataraxia, the unshakable calm that comes when you stop fighting reality. Gratitude helps you see that you already have enough. Stillness helps you feel it. Together, they become armor against anxiety, comparison, and fear. Gratitude reprograms your mind from scarcity to sufficiency. Stillness teaches you to inhabit the present moment, the only place peace truly lives. And over time, this practice changes you. You start worrying less about what might go wrong because you're too aware of what's already right. You stop chasing after future happiness because you begin to experience it right here in the small details. Seneca once said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence on the future." That's gratitude. That's stillness. Try it for 3 days. When you wake, breathe in gratitude. When you're overwhelmed, return to stillness. When you lie down at night, thank life for another chance. Do this not as a ritual of positivity, but as a discipline of perspective. You'll notice something subtle. Your pace slows. Your anxiety softens. You begin to appreciate not just what's extraordinary, but what's ordinary. The taste of food, the sound of rain, the presence of someone you love. And slowly, the world that once felt heavy starts to feel alive again. Gratitude and stillness are not escapes from life. They are how you return to it. Because when your mind learns to rest, your heart learns to open. And in that space of quiet awareness, you realize that peace was never missing. You were just too loud to hear it. At the end of these 3 days, you'll notice something subtle but powerful, a shift. The world outside won't have changed much. The noise will still be there. The challenges will still appear, but you will have changed. The difference won't be dramatic at first. It'll be quiet, like a steady flame that refuses to go out. You'll begin to respond instead of react, to choose action over complaint, to let go of control, to find peace in stillness. And that small shift, that gap between the old you and the new you, is the beginning of freedom. Most people look for transformation in grand gestures. They want the breakthrough moment, the life-changing event, the external sign that everything is different now. But transformation rarely shouts. It whispers. It hides in tiny choices, in how you speak to yourself when you fail, in how you pause before anger, in how you keep showing up when no one notices. That's what the Stoics meant when they said, character is fate. Because your fate isn't shaped by what you dream of, it's shaped by what you repeatedly do. After these 3 days, the temptation will be to stop, to tell yourself it was a short experiment, that life is too busy to stay this aware. But don't. Let these 3 days be the foundation of something deeper. Every morning is another chance to think this way, to practice awareness, gratitude, calm, and action. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. The mind doesn't transform all at once. It evolves, moment by moment, through steady attention. Remember this truth. Every thought is a seed. You've spent 3 days planting better ones, seeds of focus, acceptance, discipline, and peace. If you keep watering them, they'll grow into the kind of mind that no chaos can shake. But if you stop, the weeds of old habits will return. So don't stop. Don't let the stillness fade. Carry these lessons quietly. When you face frustration, recall the pause. When your thoughts spiral, remember that action is the cure. When life feels unfair, remind yourself that you control your response, not the outcome. When fear arises, breathe, accept, adapt. When you feel overwhelmed, return to gratitude. This isn't a 3-day practice, it's a lifetime practice, one that renews itself every dawn. You don't need a new world. You need a new way of seeing the world. That's what Stoicism offers. Not escape, but clarity. Not detachment from life, but deeper engagement with it. Once you start thinking this way, life stops feeling like something that happens to you. It becomes something you participate in fully, calmly, consciously, courageously. So as these 3 days end, remember, the experiment doesn't end. It just begins again, with every sunrise. The goal isn't perfection, it's awareness. The reward isn't control, it's peace. Think like this, not for 3 days, but for life. And watch how everything, slowly, quietly, beautifully, begins to transform.